Hello, professional fantasy football league players. Welcome to Next Day Air. I'm your host, Josh Marton. You know this show. Every week I'm going to do this on Monday. You'll see it on Tuesday. I'm going to go over all the starts and sit I gave you last week, see how we did. Plus, maybe talk some injuries, talk a couple different guys that you might want to keep an eye on just in case. Give you some information for this week going into week 6. So let's get right into it. The quarterbacks I told you to start. Number 1 was Phillip Rivers. Had a pretty good week against San Diego. Got you 20 points if you put him in your lineup. Like I said, against the Saints, everyone's a good matchup. Unfortunately, at this point, until they get that defense figured out. So not a great call. The guy I told you to sit, most importantly, at quarterback, 3 guys. Michael Vick, Ben Roethlisberger, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Michael Vick had 14 points, so a decent game, but not great. Roethlisberger only had 9, and Fitzpatrick only had 4. So hopefully you got those guys out of your lineup. Another guy I told you to start with, Christian Ponder. I had him at number 10 in my rankings. He had a very good game, 19 points against the Titans. He's still only owned in 57%, so look for him to make an appearance again on the waiver wire show this week. At running back, Ryan Matthews. Everyone else was jumping off the bandwagon. I told you to stay on it. He had 19 points against the New Orleans Saints. Again, if you had any Chargers, you should have played them this week. That's what I told you to do last week. They all went off, basically, except for one, which we'll get to in a second. Very quickly, on running back news, Ryan Williams, it was announced today he's going to have shoulder surgery, out for the rest of the year. So if you have him on your team, if you have him in your lineup, drop him. But very quickly, just make sure you understand he's out for the rest of the year. Over at wide receiver, stick with the running backs for a second. Guys I told you to sit, Fred Jackson and C.J. Spiller, they combined for 4 points. Anyone playing the 49ers defense at running back, you need to sit him. Chris Johnson, I told you I didn't buy into his big week last week. He only had 1 point this week. Look for him to possibly make an appearance on the weekly waiver wire show because I think at this point he's droppable. Andre Brown was another one. I told you to sit him. I didn't even rank him. He didn't have any points. David Wilson ended up getting a junk time touchdown. Andre Brown did not have a good week. Over at wide receivers, I told you to start Jordy Nelson. I was wrong about Jordy Nelson. He only had 2 points. However, James Jones had 16. Randall Cobb had 14. So hopefully you got those guys in your lineup if you needed bye-week replacements. I also told you to start Torrey Smith. Well, he only got 4 points, unfortunately. Thought that was a better matchup than it turned out to be, even for Flacco. Flacco didn't have a very good day. Nobody on the Baltimore offense really did. Ray Rice had an okay day with 11, but Chiefs stepped up. I thought that was going to be an easier game for the Ravens, and it wasn't. Also, wide receiver, I told you to start Malcolm Floyd. Again, pretty good game, 10 points. Robert Meacham came out of nowhere this week. Don't buy into that, by the way. I think that was a matchup-based thing. Meacham is still probably not going to show up on my rankings. He had a good day against a former team. I think that's what Phillip Rivers was trying to do, was get him to have a good game against his former team. Dominic Hickson. Told you if you were desperate, needed a guy, well, he only got 5 points. Still, if you were looking for a flex play, maybe a wide receiver number 2 because of bye weeks, 5 points not too bad. Not as good as I thought it was going to be. Same thing with T.Y. Hilton. Hilton only had 3 points. Kind of a good flex play, but not great. Guys, I told you to sit. Stevie Johnson only had 3 points. It's that 49ers defense. Pierre Garçon. Now, I'll tell you something about Garçon. He only had 2 points, but I think Robert Griffin III going out with an injury really hurt him. I'm going to keep an eye on Robert Griffin III. They're not releasing a lot quite yet. Looks like a rib injury, also a mild concussion. So he's probably going to be listed as questionable for week 6. We'll see. Another guy, Nate Washington. I also threw Kenny Britt in there for free for you. Those 2 guys combined for 4 points. Not a good matchup against that Vikings defense. Finally, at the wide receiver, Jeremy Maclin. I told you if there was one receiver on Philadelphia that was going to get production, it was Deshaun Jackson. Well, I was wrong about that. Jackson didn't get any production either. But Jeremy Maclin only had 3 points. Now, again, T.Y. Hilton had 3 points. I tell you that's a good flex play. Maclin had 3 points. I tell you that's why you sit him. Here's the thing. Maclin is expected to be a wide receiver 1 or 2. So, yeah, if you had him as your flex, that's a good play. If you were looking for Maclin to produce as a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, it's a bad week. That's why I told you to mention him. Over at tight end, again, Kyle Rudolph, not jumping off that bandwagon because of that 0 in week 4. In week 5, he had 8 points. Very nice. Dennis Pitta, only 2 points again. It's starting to become a trend. We'll keep an eye on it. I'll let you know if it continues. whether or not there's a bad matchup this week, but I thought Kansas City was a great matchup for him. Fred Davis and Scott Chandler are the guys I told you to sit. Fred Davis ended up with a respectable day, 5 points. Scott Chandler, bad day, 3 points for Scott Chandler. Told you if he didn't get in the end zone, it wasn't going to be a very good game for him. And Antonio Gates, once again, I did not rank him. And once again, he was disappointing. He had 1 point. 1 point. Again, I told you last week to drop him. I'm going to continue that campaign. I'm not waiting around for his production. There's more guys at tight end now. There's better guys at tight end, right? So you need to get a hold of one of them. Kyle Rudolph, even Dennis Pitta had more points. Martellus Bennett put up 0, but look, he got injured for most of the game. Came back, fought through it. So I'm going to continue to be low on Antonio Gates. So that's next day air. There's not a lot of news for you. Like I said, Ryan Williams out for the season. Keep you up to date on Robert Griffin III. Check out the PFFL.com. That's our show for the week. Remember, listen to all the great PFFL radio content we have here. Tomorrow's going to be the weekly waiver wire show. Look for PFFL Live on Thursday, plus Go Pro with the Fantasy Geek, and the Stardom Shit'em show with yours truly on Friday. I'm your host, Josh Martin. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at JoshMartin33. Send me any questions you have throughout the week, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Till then, keep smiling, keep listening, and always look both ways.